Carolina Hurricanes fans on Thursday night found out that the players might not be the only ones leaving Raleigh this offseason.
You're Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to a Friday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you to the Everydayer for making this your first listen of the day, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, talking everything about your Carolina Hurricanes. I'm your host, Zach Martin. I am the Carolina Hurricanes beat writer over at the Hockey Writers. I also cover the AHL over with the Calder Times. I am also the co-host of the Surgecast, which is a weekly Carolina Hurricanes podcast, along with all of my duties here at Locked On Hurricanes. Got a very interesting show for everyone on Friday. Was going to record a little bit earlier, last night, just try to get everything ready, but some news broke, and it's a good thing we didn't really go and do that last night. So decided to do it this morning, as there has been some news that involves Don Waddell and what his future looks like with the Carolina Hurricanes. And also going to talk about the end-of-season press conference that Don Waddell and Brind'Amour had earlier in the week on Monday, and kind of hit a couple of key points from the press conference that kind of stood out. But before we get into all of that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So, like I said, some late news Thursday night in the middle of the Edmonton Oilers and Dallas Stars Western Conference Final game, that Elliot Friedman and Pierre LeBrun both simultaneously going and then on backing each other up on socials, said that there has been some news and some rumors about Don Waddell and his future with the Carolina Hurricanes. With Pierre LeBrun last night about 9:20, kind of said that there's word tonight that Don Waddell has permission from the Hurricanes to speak to other teams. His contract with Carolina is expiring. The Hurricanes are believed to have already had conversations about a new GM because they expect his eventual departures. Let's see where this goes. So this was Pierre LeBrun on Twitter/X last night, bringing that down. And then probably not too much longer after that, Elliot Friedman from Sportsnet at 9:39 said, further to Pierre's point, report, I believe Don Waddell interviewed in Columbus today, with Pierre LeBrun also coming back later on from what Friedman said. And he also said at 9:45 last night, and further to Elliot, can also confirm Waddell interviewed with the Blue Jackets today, meaning on Thursday. So looks like the Carolina Hurricanes might not only be worrying about who might be staying or leaving in terms of the players aspect, but now you're looking at possibly general manager Don Waddell possibly leaving the team as well. With his contract expiring, they took care of Brind'Amour and his staff. We talked about earlier in the week. And now you might be looking at a new GM for the Carolina Hurricanes, which makes Monday's press conference very, very interesting. The fact that you looked at how they were asking, what's next for the Hurricanes, what's their main goals for the offseason, which we'll talk about later on in this episode. But now you're getting a different context of okay, well, if they have priorities this offseason of what they want to do for get the team ready for 24-25, are you going to see general manager Don Waddell at the helm of the new turnaround? What's next for the team? And now you're looking at the reports of he might be going to Columbus and being the Blue Jackets' new GM, because earlier this year, during the season, the Blue Jackets, fired Jarmo Kekalainen as their general manager. So now that's been an open spot, and they've just been wanting to see what they want to do in that position. And now you're looking at maybe Don Waddell. Nothing's confirmed. It was just an interview, but it was definitely surprising last night if you're a Carolina Hurricanes fan, seeing at between 9:15 and 9:45 on a Thursday night, seeing that your current general manager, who doesn't have an expiring contract, might be on the move, and within the same week of an season-ending press conference where they're trying to, answer some questions about bringing some, UFAs back, looking how they're going to do with the RFAs, dealing with, the Brind'Amour contract rumors and all that stuff. And now it's, okay, you might not have that GM now. He might be going somewhere else. And then the fact that Pierre even said, too, that the Hurricanes have already talked about a new GM. So are you looking at possibly a promotion for Eric Tulsky, who's been, basically Waddell's right-hand man for the last few seasons? And it's been well known that, Eric Tulsky is doing a lot of the, behind-the-scenes stuff, for the last couple of years for the Hurricanes, and Don Waddell's been, like the face of, the front office and all the GM moves, but it's also been Eric Tulsky who's been doing a lot of the work as well. So do you possibly see Tulsky get that promotion that, that everyone's been kind of expecting? Because there's been a lot of teams that have been interested in trying to grab Eric Tulsky from Carolina. The Hurricane, I know Columbus has been rumored to look at him. The Toronto Maple Leafs looked at him at 1.2, dealing with all their stuff. It's just, before they got what they're with Bradshaw living now after, Kyle Dubas left. Tulsky's name has been brought up in a lot of other market circles within the, front offices. And, you thought, Don Waddell's going to stay longer. Do you think teams can go pluck Tulsky? Now it looks like Eric Tulsky might be staying with the Hurricanes in maybe a potential, like I said, nothing's confirmed. Nothing's been confirmed yet. There's no news reports about it, but it's just, you kind of read through the tea leaves of what's going on right now. Tulsky's been, like I said, he's been sought after by a bunch of different franchises. The Hurricanes don't want to lose basically their main guy who's been almost running the ship from behind the scenes, with Don Waddell as kind of like the face, but who's also made also decisions as well. It's not just Eric Tulsky and then Don Waddell is just sitting there. No, they've been working together, but now is Eric Tulsky going to be the new guy for the Hurricanes, with the news that Don Waddell had permission from the Hurricanes to go interview other teams? And the fact that it's been confirmed by LeBrun and Friedman with Sportsnet, LeBrun from TSN. Is there a possibility we could see Don Waddell going to Columbus and being the new general manager for the Blue Jackets? Which, if you're talking about a guy who can help turn the ship around, Don Waddell's done it. He's been the Atlanta Thrashers GM when they were first around before they moved to Winnipeg. He's been with the Carolina Hurricanes that saw a 6-year turnaround of the franchise after going 10 years without making the playoffs. He comes in with, Brind'Amour and Tom Dunn and all that, and basically turn the franchise around to where you see the Hurricanes are at now. So if you want to look at someone to help turn a franchise around and hopefully make things work in a market, Don Waddell is that guy. And right now the Blue Jackets do kind of need some help. And I'm really curious to see what Jay from Locked On Blue Jackets have to say about it, because he's always tapped into what the Blue Jackets are doing. He's the obviously the host of Locked On Blue Jackets. I would definitely keep an eye out on Jay Foster and that show too, because curious to see what his thoughts are and what's the possibilities of that happening. So definitely something to keep an eye on. But yeah, if you're looking at someone to turn the ship around, and Columbus definitely does, and even being originally from Northeast Ohio myself, and kind of having family from the area, keeping up with the Blue Jackets and stuff like that, just home state team and all that, I'm curious to see, does it work? Do they get Waddell, and do you think is the possibility of that a possible turnaround for them? Because you want teams to thrive in the NHL. You don't want teams just keep meddling for multiple seasons and stuff like that. So if it does happen, happy for those guys. They're going to get a good GM who's been there and done that with multiple teams, especially here in Carolina. Will it be sad to see him go if it does happen? Yeah, because he's the one that kind of helped architect a revitalization of the Carolina Hurricanes franchise. And you see what's been going on in Raleigh, even in the Triangle in general, over the last 6 years, is just how hockey has thrived in the area, even in North Carolina too. And now, it's just, you're bringing Hurricanes hockey in the Carolina region, North and South Carolina, where it's like, okay, the Hurricanes are a thing. They are, a pillar of what, a well-run organization is. And now it's just, you kind of lose that 3-pillar system of, Brind'Amour, Waddell, Dundon, of those guys who, brought this team back up, and now you might be without him. But like I said, too, you also got Eric Tulsky in the wings. So, you still got that guy behind the scenes who's now going to be more of a face of your, front office in terms of the Hurricanes. He could be your next general manager. So, like I said, nothing's been confirmed yet. It's just there's been reports of Waddell talking to the Blue Jackets. So it could be a possibility. And like I said, reading through the tea leaves, and you're looking at, Tulsky's been sought after by the franchises. It only makes sense for the Hurricanes to just promote him to be the new general manager of the Carolina Hurricanes, possibly for the 24-25 season. So, this is definitely a story to keep in mind and keep a focus on. And, might be more discussions in future episodes, probably next week or whenever that does happen. But, something that just happened last night, which why you're getting more of a Friday morning-esque type recording and download rather than the usual stuff that we, trying behind the scenes of Locked On Hurricanes. That's why, with that news dropping, I kind of wanted to go on information first for you guys and be able to do that for today's show for Friday rather than having everything done and then this breaks and it's like, okay, now I got to wait. So when I saw that, I'm like, you know what, let's just save it, see what else happens, and we'll go from there. So that's kind of it where we're at right now in terms of the Don Waddell talks and, what it's going on with that in terms of, is he leaving Carolina? Is he going to Columbus? And what's next for the Hurricanes for a new GM? So definitely keep that in mind. But like I said, as I said earlier, we're also going to talk about the end of season press conference that happened back on Monday with Don Waddell and Rod Brind'Amour. We got a couple of things that kind of stood out from that press conference. It's something that's very, very interesting to go over, which we'll do that here in a second on a Friday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. There is no I in team, but there is one in Indeed, and that's the hiring platform you need to build yours. When you're hiring, you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Instead of spending hours of multiple job sites searching for candidates with the right skills, Indeed's a powerful hiring platform that can help you do it all. We streamline hiring with powerful tools that find you match candidates. With Instant Match, over 80% of employers get quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches their job descriptions the moment they sponsor a job, according to Indeed.us. One of the things I love about Indeed is that it makes hiring all in one place so easy because Indeed does the hard work for you. Indeed shows you candidates whose resumes on Indeed fit your description immediately after you post so you can hire faster. Even better, Indeed's the only job site where you can only pay for applicants that meet your must-have requirements. Indeed is the unbelievably powerful hiring platform, delivering 4 times more hires than all their job sites combined, according to Talent Nest 2019. Join more than 3 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/lockedon. Offer good for a limited time. Claim your $75 credit now at Indeed.com/lockedon. That once again, that is Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Welcome back to a segment 2 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. So like I said, at the end of segment 1, we're going to start going into some of the end of season press conference stuff that we had from Rod Brind'Amour and Don Waddell back on Monday. And one of the things that was a major discussion pretty much through the entire playoffs, more so especially after round 1 after the Hurricanes defeated the Islanders and before their round 2 against the New York Rangers, the one main thing, and I even talked about it too on previous episodes, was the contract extension of Rod Brind'Amour. Would the Hurricanes bring him back? There was a lot of rumors of like the Seattle Kraken were looking at him. The Toronto Maple Leafs wanted to go after him. There was a couple other teams too that were kind of like considering trying to go after Rod Brind'Amour. And of course, through all those press conferences and stuff like that, I even asked, both Waddell and Brind'Amour, what's that situation like? And Waddell and Brind'Amour both said, they've been talking about it every day. They're trying to work some stuff out, and there's just, it takes 2 to agree to a deal, and there was just stuff they needed to take care of. And on Monday, they addressed it, and even then, too, Rod Brind'Amour jumped on with Jeff Merrick on the Jeff Merrick show on up in Sportsnet, and he said, and Rod Brind'Amour even said they had a deal pretty much done for the, with Rod and the team since September, which turned out to be a 5-year contract extension. And it's one of those things that they got done in September, kind of wanted to sit on that announcement because, they had to take care of all of Rod Brind'Amour's staff. And, Paul Schoenfelder, Tim Gleason, Jeff Daniels, all of them, they had to make sure that all the assistant coaches and the video guys and all of that, had extensions as well, the goalie coach. And, it just took a little bit longer than expected. And it's just one of those things where, the rumor mill started to hit of, does Rod want to leave? Is the Hurricanes going to let him walk? And, then it turns into, okay, where do we go from here? Because now it's like the deal, they've been sitting on the deal, but they haven't said anything. And now they got the rumors of Rod probably leaving. And as it turns out, he was really never leaving. There was a contract done, and it's just having to deal with things behind the scenes and trying to get other, contracts with the assistants done, which we did find out from Elliot Freeman on 32 Thoughts that the assistant coaches all got 2-year extensions with a +1 as well. So it's an option for a 3rd year. And the thing is, he doesn't know, and I don't think no one's really going to know outside of the Hurricanes organization, that no one knows who controls the +1. Is it the coaches or is it the organization themselves as the Hurricanes? Do they own the +1 part of the option? So as of right now, all we know is that Rod Brind'Amour got a 5-year contract extension, and then all of his assistant coaches and the video coach and goaltending coach and all that, they got a 2-year extension with a +1 option for a 3rd year. So we kind of know what's going on with that, but that was definitely something that was a big topic of conversation. And even during the press conference, asking, what it means to not only for himself to get extended, but his staff as well. And Rod Brind'Amour said, I think that was probably one of the most important factors of the whole thing. I think what makes us go and be successful as a group is that I really believe we're a family in there. It's not about me. Everybody has a role, whether it's a coach, and I see our trainers back there, like we're all in this together. And that's the little, for me, the little thing that made us successful. We have great players and we have great commitment, and that's a big deal. But it's the other stuff. So it certainly helps with me knowing that we got everything covered from top to bottom in there and got the best guys doing their jobs. And it makes my job really easy, to be honest. And, that's really awesome to see, for the fact that, it's good to see that the Hurricanes were able to figure it out and go from there. And, it helps in terms of, you see that Rod Brind'Amour once again was making sure his guys were taken care of. And that's the same thing that happened a few years ago, too. When the last time Rod Brind'Amour's contract came up, was he waited for all of his guys to get taken care of. Then he got his contract extension. So it's not surprising why this took so long. And I've said it multiple times on this show and on, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, I was never really worried about this. Rod Brind'Amour is Carolina. And he's been here since the 1999-2000 season. He's been in Raleigh for 24 years. Former captain, led the team to win the Stanley Cup in 2006. Former assistant coach. Now he's been the head coach since 2018-19. 6 straight playoff appearances, 6 straight first-round wins, 2 Eastern Conference final appearances, won 3 division titles in a row. Of course, 2 Metros, but of course the third was that wacky Discover Central Division in that shortened COVID season, which that was a whole different thing. But yeah, you win 3 straight division titles, multiple playoff appearances, multiple first round wins. There's right now, a lot of people were like, "Oh, fire Rod and do this and do that," because you know how social media is when it's like something happens and it's blow everything up. Okay, what coach are you going to go get out there right now that's going to help this team? Who's available that can do what Rod Brind'Amour has done? Rod Brind'Amour is one of 2 coaches that have won first round playoff matches in the first 6 seasons behind the bench as the head coach. Name another guy who's available right now that could do that. You can't. And even then, talking about, coaching long-term in Carolina, Rod Brind'Amour said it too, and this is a pretty lengthy answer, but it's one worth mentioning. It's hard for me to envision just doing this anywhere else. That's really the bottom line. What makes it important for me is the people I'm around and because I know their commitment and I see it. So when I ask the players to care about what they do, your boss has to care about it. So it's real. If I was to go somewhere else, I don't know how I could be that same coach because I don't have that commitment. I don't have that background and I don't have the love for the guys that I have here. So when the opportunity to keep coaching here is an option, then that's what I'm doing. There's also a little bit of the unfinished business thing. The carrot is that we will still haven't won. I also go back to my playing days. I remember going to the finals and losing and thinking, this is it. But maybe that was the best thing that happened because there was still that motivation at 35 to keep playing. So there's still that carrot out there for me to help this organization get to where we need to and to help these guys that are in there that all want to get it too. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I just know it's the right fit. And yeah, and talking about that carrot, it's going to win the Stanley Cup again because he won the cup in 2006 as the captain. And the last, 3-4 seasons, with all the success they've had, this year is probably the year they were the odds-on favorite to win the cup, and unfortunately fell short. And that carrot, once again, is back out in front of Rod Brind'Amour, and it's the unfinished business to win another Stanley Cup. And this time as the team's head coach, because I don't know how many guys in NHL history have gone to captain a team to a Stanley Cup win and then go head coach a team to a Stanley Cup win in the same organization. It's probably slim or probably zero. And that's one of those niche stats that you really have to go dig deep for. But like I said, Rod Brind'Amour is Carolina, and Rod said it best. He can't do this anywhere else. He said all he wants to do is coach in Carolina. He doesn't know if he can coach anywhere else. So I wouldn't be surprised at some point if Rod does want to step away. I would not be surprised if the Hurricanes are like, all right, now we're going to bring you to the front office. You were a player, you were a coach, and now we want to bring you to the front office. So there could be a future where you see Rod Brind'Amour move up into the front office and do something within those. That way he can still stay with the team. But like I said, I knew it was a foregone conclusion that Rod Brind'Amour is not going anywhere else. They were just trying to figure out other contracts to keep him here along with his staff. So it's not surprising. And, they've even asked the players about, what makes Rod Brind'Amour so great. And, of course, if you haven't listened to the latest Storm report with Walt Ruff, I highly suggest you do because they talk to guys like Steph Nason, Jordan Martinook, and Jordan Stahl, and a bunch of other guys talking about Rod Brind'Amour and just how he cares about them. He treats them like family, but he also, he expects the best out of these guys, and these guys want to do that for Rod Brind'Amour. And the fact that he lets them be them. He wants them to play to their strengths, and that's something that, has made guys like Steph Nason thrive as a bottom six guy. And I say that in air quotes because he plays power play minutes. And just the fact that, the guys buy in and you see how close this team is because of the culture that Rod Brind'Amour has set. So it made sense to keep him here. So I don't really expect him anywhere else, but it was a foregone conclusion. Rod was going to stay. He did stay. And now it's for 5 more seasons, and hopefully within that time we get to see at least one cup win because this team is there. Like Rod Brind'Amour said on Monday, they're knocking on the door. Now it's just time to go and win the whole thing. So it's good to see him there. Good the rumors are finally done with that. And it's good to hear from the coach himself that he doesn't see himself anywhere else. He wants to be in Carolina, and the more the Hurricanes offer for him to stay, then he's going to stay, and that's that. So there's one more topic we got to discuss about in our third segment of the show, which we'll do here in a second on a Friday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Welcome back to segment 3 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. So one of the other things that was kind of brought up in the fact that, it's a lot of UFAs and RFAs, coming this offseason for the Hurricanes. There are a lot of deals they're going to have to try to figure out, with Teuvo Teravainen, Brett Pesce, Brady Shea, Jordan Martinook, a lot of those guys are UFAs. And you're looking at the restricted free agents of what, Martin Nietzsche, Seth Jarvis, Jack Drury. There's a lot of things that Don Waddell, for now, and what his front office and Eric Tolsky, them, what's the goal, what's the plan to build for the team next year? Because, they went all in this trade deadline with Jake Gensel And now it's, they're going to try to bring Jake Gensel back. And, that's one of the things that the Hurricanes want to do is, Per Elliott Freeman said that they are going to try and make a run at keeping Jake Gensel here because he played really well for the Hurricanes, 25 points in 17 games in the regular season. He played really well in the playoffs too, 9 points in 11 games. So you're kind of hoping that he does stay in Carolina. And of course, dealing with, are they going to try to keep Martin Necas? So they're going to move on from him? What's the contract situation like with Jesperi Kotkaniemi? What type of deal you're going to give Seth Jarvis? There's a lot of questions for the Hurricanes. And one of the questions that seemed very interesting in the fact of, looking at center depth for the Hurricanes, because there's that, you got Sebastian Aho as your 1C. Your first line center. You got Jordan Staal as your third line center. But they were hoping Jesperi Kotkaniemi could be that second line center. It kind of worked out, kind of also didn't work. They threw Jack Drury in for a lot of the playoffs as the second line center. And for the most part, I thought he did pretty good. He didn't get any goal. Goal scoring wasn't up for him this year, but, he played a lot of time on the fourth line, and you saw him go for the second line in the postseason. But a lot of questions are, do the Hurricanes go get a second line center, in the offseason? And what does that look like? Are they trying for someone? Are they going to sign someone? And this is one of the main things they asked him about was the team's center depth. And Waddell said, what I would say is we both have talked about this, him and Rod Brind'Amour, all year long, that the depth at our center is good, but they're all left-handed shots. Roddy's been talking about it, and we talked about it during the season, during the trade deadline, throughout the playoffs, that we've loved to get a right-hand shot center to balance our left shots. As we know, there's not just a lot of those guys out there, but the depth of our centers is good. If we could find one of those guys that could win faces on the right side, I think that's what he would like. So you look at, like I said, Sebastian Aho, Jack Drury, Jesperi Kotkaniemi, Jordan Staal, all those guys can shoot from, they're all left-handed shots. And you need to go get, they want a right-hand shot. And I know a lot of people have been bringing up Martin Necas, that, yes, he's played mainly wing for the Hurricanes, and he is technically also a center because that's what he played growing up before he came to Carolina. The problem is, and why he hasn't really cracked a center spot for the Hurricanes and Rod Brind'Amour's system, is because if you go back and look through his face-off percentages over the last few seasons, you're talking 42%, 44%, 46%. This past season for 23-24, his face-off percentage is 34.1%. Maybe it's not a lot of opportunities, but when you're consistently within the 44 to 46 range, and then this past season you're 34%, that's not really something that the Hurricane, you got to be a little bit better than that. You got to be closer to 50 or over 50. And being in the low end of 40s and then in the 30 range, that's not really going to get it done if you want to be a center. Because you can't just rely on all your left-handed. You can't rely on Jordan Staal all the time, and you have so many left shot centers. So yeah, one of the main things for the Hurricanes is they want to go get a right-hand shot, and it's curious to see who they're going to get. I know I brought up on social media, do the Hurricanes go look at Elias Lindholm? He has a right-hand shot. He was with the team before, but he wasn't with this current ownership group and Rod Brind'Amour. Maybe that's someone to look at. Is there someone else in free agency they can go look at, or to sign, or do they go trade for one? So it'll be very interesting to see what they do. But you could see that there is some plans and options. The fact that one of their priorities is a right shot center that balance their left side guy. So it's curious to see what they do. And like I said, I know Martin Necas is there technically for now, because there's a lot of rumors of teams looking to trade for him. I've heard the Toronto Maple Leafs might look into him. There's been so many teams that have been kind of looking, or hey, let's go talk to the Hurricanes with Martin Necas, because he wants a certain amount of money and he wants first line minutes. He was on power play 1 last year, not as much this past season, but the season before he was on power play 1 a lot. This past year he was on PP2. So he wants first power play minutes. He wants first line minutes. So there's some teams looking at him. And like I said, I know people are like, well, there's a right-hand shot right there in Martin Necas, but his numbers don't back up of him being a guy who can win faceoffs. So that's why you kind of see that one of the priorities for the Hurricanes is got to find a balance in your left shot, centers with a right shot center. So it'll be very interesting to see what the Hurricanes do with that. In the course of that, do you slide him in as your 2C? because a lot of people have been saying since Vincent Trocheck left, the Hurricanes really haven't had a bona fide second line center that could back up Sebastian Aho, and you're not forcing Jordan Staal to be your quote unquote second line center. So I'll be curious to see for something to keep an eye on for the Hurricanes this offseason. If they go sign someone who's potentially available as your right shot center that could be your 2C, or do you go and trade for someone? So definitely something to keep an eye on. That if it's going to be Don Waddell looking for that, or is it going to be Eric Tulsky and the rest of the front office? But that at least Waddell and Brind'Amour and probably the front office have been talking all season about potentially looking into an option like that. So definitely a lot of things to keep an eye on. I know there's a lot more from the press conference that was talked about, but at this point, everyone knows what's been said. I've written about it over at the Hockey Writers. If you want to go check that out, I had a lot more information to go over on the Hockey Writers side of things. If you want to go look for that article, but that's just kind of like the two kind of main things that stood out was Rod Brind'Amour contract extension and talks of why he wanted to stay in Carolina, and what some of the priorities are for the Hurricanes, especially like I said with Jake Gensel. They want to go after him. They got to figure out contracts of Pesce, Shea, Teravainen, Martinuk, Steph Mason, and then of course, like I said, all your RFA guys of Jarvis, Jury, and Nietzsche. So you'll be curious to see what they do with all that, and it's definitely something that is going to be a big topic of conversation through the offseason, especially when you're looking for a right shot center, possibly making them your second line center as well. So definitely a lot of things to keep an eye on and think about as the offseason goes along to get ready for the 24-25 season. And of course, throughout this whole offseason right here at Locked On Hurricanes, I'll make sure to keep everyone informed on what's just going on and potentially what could be happening for the Carolina Hurricanes as we roll on into the summer. And as we just start creeping ever so closer to fall and the start of the 24-25 season, which cannot get here soon enough because I am already missing Carolina Hurricanes hockey with the playoffs still going and them being unfortunately out. But if you want to follow me, if you want to keep up with everything that I'm doing on social media and all my writing and stuff like that, you can follow me at One True Zach on X. You can follow the podcast at @LO_Hurricanes. If you click the link to my bio, like I said, you can find all my articles at the Hockey Writers along with premium content and the newsletters that have been coming out from there as well. Starting to go into the draft, potentially looking at who the Hurricanes could take at pick 27 in the upcoming 2024 AHL entry draft that will be here later in June and all that good stuff. So make sure to check that article out about Adam Jecko of the Edmonton Oil Kings of the WHL. You also can check out all my AHL writings at the Calder Times. You can also find the links to where you can listen to my other podcasts, the Surgecast, along with watching that on YouTube. And for this podcast of Locked On Hurricanes, there are links to where you can listen to the show. If you're not already listening to it on the podcast platforms, you will find links on there. And if you leave a 5-star rating, that'll greatly grow the show. And if you leave a review with that rating, I might just read it on the show if it's a 5-star. And then if you are watching this on the YouTube side of things, make sure to subscribe, turn on the bell notifications so you don't miss the show, and hit the thumbs up button to let me know if you like the show or not. And in the comments below, do you think Don Waddell is going to be potentially leaving the Carolina Hurricanes this offseason? And if there is a second line center who's a right shot you think the Hurricanes could benefit from getting, let me know who you hope to see the Hurricanes get as that right shot center that could help maybe bolster that second line. So make sure to leave all that in the comments. If you do subscribe, make sure to share with all our Hurricanes fans so they become everydayers just like you. And if we're over 860 subscribers, and if we get to 1,000 total subscribers, and of course we're going to go more past that too, but once we get to 1,000, I might just do something really awesome for you guys. But like I said, thank you to the everydayer for making it your first listen every day. I hope everyone enjoys their Friday. Hope you enjoy your Friday as well. And, curious to see what happens with the Hurricanes over the coming weeks. But until next time, as always, let's go Canes.